Jookalorum.
Juka what? What are you talking about?
It's an O. Henryism.
Oh, Henryism.
O. Henry used it in one of his great stories. It means something special, something sensational.
I thought Henry was just a candy bar.
If you'd read more, you would know O. Henry was one of the most popular American short story writers ever.
Read? There's about as much reading as I'm up for. Summer's a time to relax, enjoy, get away.
I am getting away into my book.
Nerd alert.
Don't knock it till you try it. Lupe and I did our English project on O. Henry, and we've read a bunch of his stuff since then. Hey, Lupe, you should give that book to Lane to read.
A singular sampling of sensational short stories by O. Henry. He wrote more than 500 stories between 1897 and 1910.
Can you imagine writing 500 short stories in just 13 years? That really is sensational.
I still don't know what could be sensational about some stuffy old author.
Oh no, he's not stuffy at all. He's great. He uses all this comic invention and verbal trickery.
Yeah, and he's known for his surprise endings. And with the possible exception of Mark Twain, I'd say he's one of the most typically American short story writers ever.
Why the name O. Henry?
A pseudonym.
A what?
Pseudonym. Pen name.
Some say he got it from hearing his family call a cat. Oh, Henry, here, kitty, kitty.
Hey, that's kind of funny.
That's what we're trying to tell you. Oh, Henry has a great sense of humor.
So what's his real name?
He was born William Sidney Porter, September 11th, 1862, in Greensboro, North Carolina. His father was a middle-class alcoholic doctor, and his mother died of tuberculosis when he was only 3. He was raised by an aunt, which gave him a rudimentary education and encouraged him to read, which he did.
Good for him.
At age 15, he was apprenticed to a pharmacist and became one at age 19. When he was 20,
What are you, his biographer?
his doctor didn't like the sound of his lungs and told him to move to Texas. So he worked on sheep and cattle ranches for a few years.
That'd be enough to make me look for a desk job.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did. He tried his hand as a bank teller, a sketch artist, a draftsman, and a humor columnist for the Houston Post. Then, bad luck.
I'll say, he was arrested.
Oh, Henry, that bad boy from Texas.
Indicted for allegedly embezzling funds from the bank. Tried and sentenced to 5 years, Ohio State Penitentiary.
He was pretty embarrassed by the whole thing. He never stopped saying he was innocent. He was determined to make the best of his situation, though, and he started writing stories about his life.
And since he didn't want to publish them under his real name...
He used the pseudonym O. Henry.
Right.
You're a smart duck.
Quack.
Then, good luck came his way.
The O. Henry biography continues.
Oh, Luke's on a roll now. Just you wait.
He was released from prison after 3 years, and he moved to New York City, which he always referred to as Baghdad on the subway. It was a real cultural awakening for him. He took the characters and places in that New York local color, and he used them to flavor his stories. And the people loved it. They just ate it up.
Yeah, New York really opened up in terms of his work. He just had this explosion of creative activity. But health-wise, he really suffered there. And after less than just 10 years, he died.
June 5th, 1910.
So you even turned 48?
Look who's the math whiz.
It's a skill.
Kind of like remembering biographical facts.
Just imagine what he could have done if he had lived that longer.
But even in his really short lifespan, he created a huge body of work. I mean, he just left a treasure trove of stories. He wrote about common men and women, cowboys and prospectors, shop girls and struggling artists, bums and cab drivers, cashiers and waitresses, and young lovers and old folks.
He had a lot of sympathy for those people.
Yeah, he really did. And I think that's one of the beauties of his work, because he wrote truly about how life was lived by real people in the early 20th century. And the people are interested in that. And both because he captured human nature and because he captured the spirit of the times.
I still don't know what could be so Jookalorum about a few short stories.
Oh, you're gonna love these. Let's see, what would be a good one to start with? I think you should try one from his Heart of the West collection. He really captures the West, the way the people talk, the setting. They're all good, but I like his humorous side, especially when he deals with the gentle art of romance. Here, try this one. It's called The Ransom of Mac.
What's it about?
It'll take you on a voyage to a lazy little town in Pina, Colorado, about 30 miles out from Denver, where you'll discover how friendship can take a very strange turn where romance is concerned. Oh, come on, it's a great story. My arm's getting tired.
All right. Anything to get you to quit lecturing me on the guy.
Bravo, you won't regret it. It starts off with Mac, a seasoned prospector who has reached the ripe old age of 40, and Andy, a younger prospector. Good friends, solid, loyal, and always watching out for each other.
Mac, is that you?
Why, hello, Andy. Glad to see you back from New Mexico. Things have been happening around here in the 2 months you've been away.
I can see that, and a sacrilegious sight you are too. God never made you that way, Mac Lonsbury. Why do you scarify his works with this presumptuous kind of ribaldry?
Why, Andy? The town of Pinon has elected me Justice of the Peace.
I can't believe my eyes. When I left, you were shabby and comfortable, sitting in your rocking chair with your feet propped up, reading Buckle's History of Civilization. You were the picture of contentment.
I'm still content, Andy.
But Mac, didn't we work hard together for 3 years at the little hide-and-seek mine?
We did.
And didn't we haul out $40,000 apiece in gold and decide to spend some of it and enjoy ourselves?
We did.
And didn't we find an elegant 2-room house and hire a Chinese cook that can mess up the atmosphere with the handsomest smell of ham and eggs that ever laid the honeysuckle in the shade?
We sure did.
Didn't we spend many a cool, dark evening lighting our pipes and talking about science and pearl diving and sciatica and Egypt and trade winds and leather and gratitude and a lot of other subjects that we'd never have time to explain our sentiments about before?
There is no doubt about it, Andy. We have. We have been self-indulgent and gratifying without vulgar ostentation.
Then why are you dressed up like this?
Afternoon, Miss Robosa.
Afternoon.
Afternoon, Mr. Lonsbury.
Surely you're not hankering after women folks at your age. You told me you let all your chances go by.
Did I say that?
Yes, you did. And you also asked me if I was aware of the habits and policies of women folk. And I told you that I was well aware of the feminine nature. All the little sidesteps and discrepancies is as plain to my sight as the Rocky Mountains is to a blue-eyed burro. And I warned you about them. I told you that it takes a man like me, who understands the symptoms and byplays of women, to take care of himself in this world. Now, Mac, you have just passed 40. You better back off from certain disaster while you can.
Tonight, I'm going to marry Miss Robosa. She's a living angel right here on earth. Don't you think, Andy?
Marry Miss Robosa? Tonight? Miss Robosa! Miss Robosa, wait! Miss Robosa, I understand that you're to be married tonight.
Correct. You got any objections?
Miss Robosa, that old dressed-up turkey gobbler with patent leather shoes on is my best friend. Why'd you get him all invested in this marriage business?
Why, he was the only chance there was.
Miss Robosa, with your good looks, you might have any kind of man. Old Mac ain't the man you want. He was 22 when you was born. He's all ventilated with oldness and decay. This bursting into sudden bloom won't last with him. He's down with a severe case of Indian summer. Are you really bent on having this marriage occur?
Why, sure I am. And so is somebody else, I reckon.
Well, what time is it to take place?
At 6 o'clock at my house.
I've got to save old Mac if I can. To have a good, seasoned, ineligible man like him turn chicken for a girl is more than I can look on with easiness. I will draw upon my display of knowledge concerning the feminine intuitions of reason. Miss Robosa, ain't there some nice young man in this town you think a heap of?
Why, sure there is. What do you think? Gracious.
And does he like you?
He's crazy about me. Ma has to wet down the front steps to keep him from sitting there all the time. But I guess that'll be all over after tonight.
Then you don't experience any of this adoration called love for old Mac then, do you?
Why, no. I think he's as dry as a lava bed. The idea.
Ah, then who is this young man that you like?
Eddie Bales. He clerks in Crosby's grocery, but he don't make but $35 a month.
Listen, if Eddie Bales had $1,000 in cash that could buy him any store of his own, would you consent to marry him tonight at 5 o'clock?
Would I marry Eddie Bales at 5 o'clock? For $1,000? Of course I would.
I will write out a check for $1,000. When you and Eddie Bales are married, I'll hand it to you.
Please don't wake me up. You must be some rich uncle retired from the spice business in India. Eddie will buy out Mr. Crosby's and run that store himself. 5 o'clock, did you say?
5 o'clock, it's nearly time. You better hurry. Phew, I did it. I saved my old friend Mac from his attack of Indian summer, and he'll be grateful once he's out of that stiff suit and those patent leather shoes. Soon, it'll be back to the good old times in the cabin. Just Mac in his rocking chair, and me and my banjo, and the Chinese cook and the ham and eggs. To keep him disinvolved from relapses like this in the future is worth more than $1,000 any day. I'm sure glad I made a study of women. I am not to be deceived by their means of conceit and evolution. I'll just kill time for half an hour or so and then mosey on back to see Mac. Why, Mac, you don't look like you're getting ready for a wedding at 6 o'clock. It's past 5:30.
Oh, the wedding was moved up to 5 o'clock. It's all over now. I didn't see you there, Andy.
You mean you heard about the wedding?
Heard about it. I operated it.
You did what?
I told you, I was justice of the peace now. The preacher's off east visiting his folks, and I'm the only one in town that can perform the dispensations of marriage. I promised Eddie and Robosa a month ago that I'd marry him. He's a bright lad, and she's a smart young woman. I think they'll have a store of their own someday.
Yeah, they sure will.
There was lots of women at the wedding, but I didn't seem to get any ideas from any of them. I was just informed in the structure of their attainments like you are, Andy.
That was 2 months ago, Mac, and I'm not as informed as I thought I was.
When Max said he was gonna marry her, he just meant he was gonna conduct the ceremony. But then he thought...
Yeah, I saw that coming.
The little twist didn't fool you, eh? Well, try this one. This one takes place on a train, the B&M Express to be exact, eastbound from Denver to Kansas City, where you'll meet two young people who try to renew an old acquaintance.
Hearts and hands?
That's it. This one's about a young woman who tries to, well, just read it. You'll see for yourself.
Just imagine a train and full of passengers coming on board. First, there's the pretty young lady, Miss Fairchild. Then, a young passenger who appears to be rather sharp-eyed and aware of everything going on around him. Then, there are the two men passengers, a Mr. Easton and the other man whose name we don't know, who are handcuffed together.
Well, Mr. Easton, if you make me speak first, I suppose I must. Don't you recognize old people in the West?
Oh, it's Miss Fairchild, of course. It's nice to see you again. I'll have to ask you to excuse my other hand. It's otherwise engaged at present.
Oh, dear.
Don't be afraid. It's all right.
But what does this mean, Mr. Easton?
If you'll excuse me for speaking up, miss, I see you're acquainted with the marshal here.
Marshal?
If you'll ask him to put in a good word for me when I get to the penitentiary, I'm sure he will, and it'll make things a lot easier for me there.
Penitentiary?
Yes, miss. It's 7 years for counterfeiting.
Counterfeiting? Oh, counterfeiting. Well, I'm sure he'll say a good word for you if you deserve it. So that's what you were doing in the West, Mr. Easton? You're a marshal?
My dear Miss Fairchild, I had to do something. Money has a way of taking wings, and you know it takes money to keep step with our crowd in Washington. It isn't as quite a high position as that of ambassador, but...
The ambassador. The ambassador will call me more, and I'm very glad he does it. But I'll be very glad if you'll call me when you get back to Washington.
You would?
Oh, yes. You're one of those dashing Western heroes and go ride and shoot into all kinds of dangers. That is very different from the Washington life.
Yes, it is.
So, the old crowd really missed you, and those handcuffs look terribly uncomfortable.
Oh, don't worry about these, miss. All marshals handcuff themselves to their prisoners to keep them from getting away. Mr. Easton knows his business.
So will I see you back in Washington, Mr.
I'm afraid not, Miss Fairchild. I have some commitments that will keep me here in the West for quite a while.
Oh, I love the West. Mama and I spent the summer in Denver. She went back home because because his father was slightly ill. But I stayed on for a while, and I don't mind staying longer. You know, I believe I can live and be happy out there. The Western air agrees with me. Money isn't everything, you know.
I'm sorry. I wish things could be different, Miss Fairchild.
Say, why not take me to the dining car for some supper? I haven't had anything to eat all day, and I'm starving. And there's still a long way to Leavenworth.
Duty calls. I can't deny petition for food. It's the only friend of the unfortunate. Goodbye, Miss Fairchild.
It's really too bad you can't go back to Washington. Must you go to Leavenworth?
Yes, I'm afraid I must. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
That Marshall's a good sort of a chap. Some of these Western fellows are all right.
Oh, yeah, and Mr. Easton's pretty young to be holding an office like that.
Mr. Easton? Why, my dear, didn't you catch on to that little scene?
Scene?
Surely you noticed what was going on.
What do you mean?
I feel sorry for you, dear. Surely you know as well as I, an officer of the law never handcuffs a prisoner to his right hand.
Poor Miss Fairchild. She should have latched on to Mr. Easton before he got in trouble. Sounds like she might have saved him.
Oh, Henry does like to throw in those twists, doesn't he?
Twist? That was more like a pretzel.
Aha! I see he got you that time.
No, he didn't. I saw it coming. I was over. I saw it coming from a mile away.
Okay, Loop. It looks like we're gonna have to pull out our big guns to full loop here. Hey, what's that one story? It's my favorite. Where a cowboy and a sheep rancher vie for the hand of a young lady. Something about pancakes?
That would be Piments and Pancakes. It takes place on a cattle camp, and a sideline cowboy tells the tale.
While we were rounding up a bunch of cattle in the Frio Bottoms one morning, a dead mesquite branch caught my stirrup and gave my ankle a wrench that laid me up in camp for a week. On the third day of my compulsory idleness, I crawled out near the grub wagon to have some conversation with Judd Odom, the camp cook. Betimes I was stirred by longings for something to eat that did not come under the caption of grub. I said, "Judd, can you make pancakes?" He laid down his 6-shooter in which he was pounding an antelope steak and stood over me in what I felt to be a menacing attitude.
Did you mean that straight, or was you trying to get my goat? Them boys been telling you about me and that pancake racket?
No, Judd, I meant it. I'd swap my pony on the saddle for a stack of some buttered brown pancakes with some first crop open kettle New Orleans sweetening. Was there a story about pancakes?
No, not a story. Just the logical disclosures in the case of me and a pink-eyed snoozer from Mired Mule Ranch, and Miss Willella Laywright. I was punching cows where old Bill to me at the time. One day, I get aspirations for grub that hasn't mooed or grunted, so I hop on my bronc and push the wind for Aunt Emily's Telfair store at the Pimienta Crossing. About 3 in the afternoon, I walked into the store. In a minute, I had a long-handled spoon and an open can of juicy peaches. I was feeling like Adam before the apple stampede. When I happened to look out into the window into the yard, there was a girl standing there, an imported girl with fixings on. Aunt Emily, who is that?
Why, that's my niece, Miss Willella Leewright, down from Palestine on a visit. Why don't you make yourself acquainted?
I never was shy about women. I never could understand how men who could shave in the dark and break a Mustang before breakfast get all left-handed and full of perspiration when they see a bolt of calico draped around what belongs in it.
Well, would you look at that? Next thing I know, Judd will be over here to see her once a week.
I did just that. And then I figured if I doubled the number of trips, I would see her twice as often. One week, I added a third trip, and that's when the pancakes and the pink-eyed snoozer busted into the game. Aunt Emily, where's Miss Willella? I don't see her around today.
Why, she's gone riding with Jackson Bird, the sheep man from over at Mired Mule Ranch.
She's gone riding? With Birdstone Jack? The hired mule from Sheepman's Ranch? Did you say a sheepman? A snoozer?
You must have heard tell of Jackson Bird. He's got 8 sections of grazing and 4,000 head of the finest merino south of the Arctic Circle.
Now, Aunt Emily, you know I never believed in harming sheepmen. They never irritated me like they do most cowfolk. I always let them pass just as you would a jackrabbit with a polite word and a guess about the weather. And because I've been lenient and let them live, here's one gone riding with Miss Willella.
They're back. Here they come now.
I couldn't believe it. Jackson Bird, a sheep man. He looked more like a lamb man to me. Mr. Bird, you've come into the company of one who is commonly called Dead Moral Certainty Johnson on account of the way I shoot. When I want a stranger to know my name, I always introduce myself before the draw, for I never did like to shake hands with the ghost.
Well, I'm glad to know you, Mr. Judson.
This is a bad habit you have of riding with young girls down here at Pimienta. I've known birds to be served on toast for less than that. Now, are you going to quit, or do you wish to ride up against his Dead Moral Certainty attachment to my name, which is good for at least one set of funeral eulogies?
Now, Mr. Judson, you've got the wrong idea. I've called on Miss Learight a few times, but not for the purpose you imagine. My object is purely a gastronomical one.
What? Gastro what?
I do my own cooking. Eating is the only pleasure I get out of sheep raising. Did you ever taste the pancakes that Miss Learight makes?
No. I never knew she was up to any culinary maneuvers.
Her pancakes are golden sunshine. I'd give 2 years of my life just to get the recipe for making them. That's what I come to see Miss Learight for, but I haven't been able to get that recipe. If only I had that recipe.
Are you sure it ain't the hand that mixes the pancakes that you're after?
Now sure, Miss Learight is a mighty nice girl, but I promise you, my intentions are simply to procure a copy of that pancake recipe.
Well, I was thinking of making orphans of your sheep. But I'll let you fly away this time. You stick to pancakes and don't mistake sentiments for syrup, or they'll be singing on your ranch and you won't hear it.
To assure you that I'm sincere, I promise that if you get me that pancake recipe, I'll never call on Miss Learight again.
That's fair. I'll get it for you if I can.
Good luck.
It was 5 days before I had another chance to ride over to Pimienta. Me and Miss Willella passed a gratifying evening at Aunt Emily's Telfair store and was getting along fine in one another's estimations. Thanks I, if Jacksonburg could be persuaded to migrate, I win. So I set my sights on getting that pancake recipe. Miss Willella, if there's anything I love more than a red steer on green grass, it's a nice hot pancake smothered in sugar house molasses.
Well, that sounds real nice, Mr. Oldham.
Come now, tell me how you make them. Pancakes are just whirling in my head like wagon wheels. Pound of flour, 8 dozen eggs. How does the catalog of constituents run? Great post holes, Aunt Emily with a gun. Here's a family that thinks a heap of recipes worth protecting them with firearms. I gave up on the project for that night. I didn't calculate the tangle with Aunt Emily and her firearms. About a week later, I met Jacksonburg coming out of Pimienta as I was coming in. Got the particular for them flapjacks yet?
No, I haven't been able to get that recipe. Have you?
I tried, but was trying to dig a prairie dog out of his hole with a peanut hole. That recipe must be a Jookalorum the way they hold on to it.
If only I could get that recipe. Out there on my lonely ranch, I lie awake nights just thinking about how good they would taste. If only I had that recipe.
Don't worry, one of us is bound to get a rope over its horns before long. So long, Jaxie. I had more endurable contemplations of that snoozer when I found out he wasn't after Miss Willella. I kept trying to get the pancake recipe from her, but every time I mentioned pancakes, she would get a sort of remote and fidgety about the eyes and try to change the subject. If I held her to it, she would slide out and round up Aunt Emily with her apron pocket howitzer. About a week later, I rode over to Aunt Emily's store with a fine bunch of wildflowers for Miss Willella. When Aunt Emily saw them, she looked at me kind of funny.
Why, Judd, haven't you heard the news? Willella and Jacksonburg was married up in Palestine yesterday. I just got the letter this morning.
I dropped them flowers and let the news trickle from my ears down to my upper left-hand shirt pocket and down to my feet. Would you mind saying that again, Aunt Emily? Maybe I heard you wrong and you said prime heifers 480 on the hoof or something like that.
No, married yesterday and gone to Waco and Niagara Falls on a wedding trip. Surely you saw the signs all along, Judd. Jacksonburg has been courting Willella ever since the day he took her riding.
Then what was all this zizzaparoola about pancakes? Somebody's been feeding me pancakes from the bottom of the deck. Talk up or we'll get to mixing a pan full of batter right here. Does Miss Willella make pancakes or not?
She never made a pancake in her life as far as I know. Now calm down, Judd. You're all excited and that wound in your head is contaminating your sense of intelligence. Try not to think about pancakes.
I'm not wounded in the head. Jacksonburg told me he was calling on Miss Willella to find out her system of producing pancakes. He asked me to help him get the ingredients. I've done so with the results, you see. Aunt Emily, tell me straight. Have I been sodded down with Johnson grass by a pink-eyed snoozer?
Yes, Judd. It looks like Jackson Bird has humbugged you good. The day after he went riding with Willella, he came over and told us to watch out for you whenever you got to talking about pancakes. He said you was in camp once where they was cooking flapjacks, and one of the fellas got mad and slammed you over the head with a frying pan. After that, Jackson said whenever you got excited, that would hurt you and made you kind of crazy, and you'd go raving about pancakes. He told us you might become dangerous and to take precautions, which I did. Well, well, that Jackson Bird is sure a seldom kind of snoozer.
How long ago did this happen?
3 years. They're living on the Mired Mule Ranch now. I heard Jackson Bird was fixing the ranch up with rocking chairs and window curtains all the time, putting me up the pancake tree. I got over it after a while, but the boys had a few laughs at my expense.
What about that pancake recipe?
Didn't I just tell you there's no pancake recipe? The boys hollered for pancakes so much I cut a recipe out of a newspaper and made some for them. As for me, I don't ever eat them. I don't got an appetite for pimienta pancakes or any other kind.
Poor Judd. Guess he couldn't work up an appetite for pancakes after all that.
Candy bars, pancakes. Makes a man hungry. Anyone got $5 to let me for some snacks?
No, but $5 reminds me of this great one.
The Whirly Gig of Life?
That's it. This is from a collection called Whirly Gigs. You're going east now to the Cumberland Mountains of Tennessee, specifically to the Office of Justice and the Peace Menage a Widow in a little settlement in Piedmont County, Tennessee.
All I wanted was some chips or sliced pizza or something.
Just read. These Whirly Gigs are delicious.
A burrito.
Read!
Let me tell you what happened a short time ago on a warm day in the early summer. The Cumberland Mountains rose up blue-gray in the late afternoon haze. And all was quiet in our little settlement here in Piedmont County until Ramsey Bilbro and his young wife, Ariella, burst into the Office of the Justice of the Peace, Menage a Widow.
We all want a divorce.
That's right, a divorce. We all can't get along together no-how. It's lonesome enough to live in the mountains when a man and a woman cares for one another. But when she's always spitting like a wildcat or a moaning like a hoot owl, a man ain't got no call to live with her.
When he's a no-count varmint, always keeping company with scalawags and moonshiners, and sprawling on his back guzzling corn whiskey, and pestering folks with a pack of mangy hounds, a woman ain't got no call to live with him.
When she's always throwing skill lids or slinging boiling water on the best coon dog in the Cumberlands, and keeps a man awake at nights of all sorts of misdeeds.
When he's always a batting the Raveneers and gets a bad name up in the mountains for being a mean man, who's going to be able to sleep nights?
Sit down. According to the equity and the Constitution and the Golden Rule, if a justice of peace can marry a couple, it's plain that he can divorce them. This here office will issue a decree of divorce, providing you can pay for it.
I sold a bearskin and 2 foxes for that. It's all the money we got.
The regular price of divorce in this court is $5.
Menage a Widow stuffed that $5 bill into his pocket with the most deceptive air of indifference and wrote out the decree of divorce. And when he had finished writing it out, he handed it to Ramsey and Ariella.
Stand up. Know all men that Ramsey Bilbro and his wife, Ariella Bilbro, personally appear before me and promise that hereinafter they will neither love, honor, nor obey each other, neither for better nor for worse. Being of sound mind and body, herein fail not, so help you God. Signed, Menage a Widow, Justice of the Peace, County of Piedmont, State of Tennessee.
Hold on now, Judge. Don't you give him that paper yet. That ain't all sale now, how? I gotta have my alimony first.
Alimony?
Yeah, I'm going up to Brother Ed's on Hogback Mountain, so I'm going to need a pair of shoes and some other things. Besides, if Ramsey can't afford a divorce, let him pay me my alimony.
I never had no idea you'd be wanting any alimony.
This point demands a judicial decision. Ramsey, your ex-wife feet are bare, and the trail to Hogback Mountain is steep and flinty. Ariella, how much did you allow would be good and sufficient alimony?
Well, for the shoes and all, $5. That ain't much for alimony, but I reckon it'll get me up to Brother Ed's.
The amount don't seem unreasonable. Rancy Bilbro, you are ordered by the court to pay the plaintiff the sum of $5 for alimony, following which the decree of divorce will be issued.
I ain't got no more money. I done paid you all I had.
Then you be in contempt of court.
Well, I reckon if you give me till tomorrow, I might be able to scrape it up somewheres. I never looked forward to be paying no alimony.
Case adjourned till tomorrow, where you all will present yourself and obey the order of this court, following which the decree of divorce will be issued.
Ramsey and Ariella headed out to Uncle Zeke's to spend the night. When it began to get dark, Justice of the Peace Bernard Whittup started home for supper in his double log cabin up the slope. As Bernard crossed a little creek in the middle of a laurel thicket, the dark figure of a man jumped out in front of him and pointed a rifle at his heart.
Give me your money. Hand it over. Hurry up, I'm getting nervous. My fingers are wobbling on this here trigger.
I've only got $5.
Roll it up and stick it in the end of this here gun barrel. All right, now I reckon you can be going along. And don't look back.
Justice of the Peace Bernard Whittup had his hat on ready for business when Ramsey and Ariella returned to his office. Ramsey handed to Ariella a $5 bill. Bernard Whittup viewed it sharply. It seemed to curl up as though it had been rolled up and stuck onto the end of a gun barrel, but he refrained from comment. It was logical that other $5 bills might be inclined to curl. He then handed over the decree of divorce, but Ramsey and Ariella stood awkwardly silent. He slowly fell on the guarantee of freedom, and she slowly fell on the $5 bill.
Well, Rancy, I reckon you'll be going back up to the cabin.
I reckon I will.
There's bread in the tin box, and I put the bacon in the boiling pot to keep the hounds from getting it. Don't forget wind the clock tonight.
You going up to your brother Ed's now?
Yes, I ain't saying he'll want to make me welcome, but I ain't got nowhere else to go. Well, I'll be saying goodbye, Rancy.
Well,
It's gonna be quite lonesome in that old cabin tonight, Rancy.
it'll be lonesome, sure, but when folks get mad and want a divorce, you can't make folks stay.
Nobody don't want nobody to stay.
Nobody never said they didn't.
Nobody never said they did. I reckon I better shout on to Brother Ed's now.
Nobody can wind that old clock like you, Ariella.
You want me to go back and wind it for you?
I do, and them hounds shan't pester you no more. I reckon I've been mean and low down, but I won't be no more. Will you wind the clock tonight?
I will. My heart's in that cabin, Rancy, along with you. I ain't gonna get mad no more. Let's be starting out so we can get home by sundown.
Hold it. In the name of the state of Tennessee, I forbid y'all to be defying its laws and statutes. The court is full of joy to see the clouds of discord and misunderstanding rolling away from two loving hearts. But the court remind you that you no longer be man and wife, and as such be not entitled to the benefits and prudentials of the matrimonial estate. However, the court is prepared to remove the disabilities of divorce and perform the solemn ceremony of marriage, thus fixing things up and enabling the parties to resume their honorable and elevating matrimonial estate. The fee for performing said ceremony will be, in this case, $5.
And so Ramsey and Ariella were reunited in marriage and set off for their cabin in the mountains. Justice of the Peace Bernard Whittup took his hat off and fingered that $5 bill, and life went on like a whirligig.
What goes around comes around, just like a whirligig.
Those twists were his trademark.
Oh, Henry? More like a brother.
Not sold on O. Henry yet, eh?
All right then, how about I read you a little bedtime story?
It'll put me to sleep, that's for sure.
Okay, so this time we're headed to a more urban setting. O. Henry loved New York. He loved the crush of humanity there. He wrote about all the different types of people he saw, from folks in the highest positions in society to the lowest, and he really tried to capture them.
I'd say he succeeded.
Yeah, he really had a gift for getting inside people and their relationships. Here, I'm going to read you this one. It's a father-son thing. Mammon and the Archer.
Mammon
Another word for money.
and the archer?
Cupid, naturally.
Right.
The story begins in the parlor of the Rockwell Mansion in New York City, where we meet a Mr. Anthony Rockwell, a very rich man, and his Irish housekeeper, Rosie, who tells a story.
Here you are, sir.
Thank you, Rosie.
My name is Rosie Kelly. I'm housekeeper for Mr. Anthony Rockwell, widower of Mrs. Rockwell, who was proprietor of Rockwell's Eureka Soap Company, from which she made a vast fortune. Mr. Rockwell's sister, Miss Ellen, who is also much oppressed by wealth, lives here too. Now, Miss Ellen is a very kind and sentimental lady, and Mr. Rockwell has a temper that might be described as a bit peppery, but their hearts are of one accord when it comes to their young nephew and son, Mr. Richard Rockwell. One evening, not so long ago, Mr. Rockwell called Richard into the parlor.
Aunt Ellen. You want to see me, Father?
My boy, you are a gentleman. You have as much money as any other young man, yet you stick to what is decent and moderate. Your late mother made a fortune in soap, yet you do little or nothing with that fortune.
There are some things money can't buy, Father.
What? Tell me one thing money can't buy.
For example, it can't buy you into the exclusive circles of society.
Oh, really? You tell me where your exclusive circles of society would be if the first Astor hadn't had the money to pay his steerage into America. There's something wrong with you, my boy. I've noticed it now for the last 2 weeks. Now, I could lay my hands on about 11 million in 24 hours. Or if it's a physical ailment that's bothering you, there's a ship leaving for the Bahamas in 2 days.
Those aren't bad guesses, Father, but you're missing the mark.
Ah, I see. What's her name? Why don't you ask her the big question? You have as much money and good looks as any other young man, and you've even gone to college, but I'm sure she'll overlook that.
I haven't had the chance to ask her.
Then make one. Take her on a long walk, or take her for a carriage ride.
You don't understand her social mill. Every minute of her time is arranged for days in advance. But I must have her. I'm crazy about her, and I don't know what I'll do if I can't have her.
Are you telling me that with all the money that I've got, I can't buy 1 or 2 hours of her time?
I've put it off too late. Miss Lantry sails for Europe the day after tomorrow for a 2-year stay. I'm to see her tomorrow evening for a few minutes in a cab. I'm to escort her to Wallach's Theater, where her mother and a large group of friends will be there waiting for us. Do you think she would listen to a declaration in those 6 to 8 minutes under those circumstances? No. And what chance do I have at the theater or afterward? I'm sorry, but this is one jumble your money can't untangle. We can't buy more time with extra cash. If we could, rich people would live longer. There's no hope of talking with Miss Lantry before she sails.
We'll see. Run along to your club.
Poor boy. I wish there was something we could do.
Maybe you can't order eternity wrapped up and delivered to your residence, but I've seen Father Time get some pretty bad bruises on his heels when he walks through the gold diggings.
I wish you wouldn't think so much about money, dear brother. Wealth is nothing where true affection is concerned. Love is all-powerful. If only Richard had spoken earlier to Miss Lantry, she could not have refused him. But now I fear it is too late, and he will have no opportunity to speak with her, and all your gold cannot bring happiness to your son.
What's this you say? Money can't bring happiness? Perhaps. It remains to be seen.
Well, I have an idea of my own that might help my nephew in this dilemma.
At 8 o'clock the next evening, Miss Ellen took a quaint old ring out of a moth-eaten case and gave it to Richard.
I want you to wear this ring tonight, Richard. My mother, your grandmother, gave it to me and told me that it brought good luck and love. She asked me to give it to you once you found the one you loved.
Thanks, Aunt Ellen. I can't wear it, but I'll keep it in my pocket. It's kind of you to think of me, although I don't have much hope for finding any use of it. I've got to go now. Miss Lantry expects me to have the cab for her on time.
Well, my brother Tim, he's the gardener for the Rockwell family, and I can testify to what happened that evening. It was one of the most remarkable things I ever saw. Young Mr. Richard called for Miss Lantry in the cab at 8:30 and headed for Wallach's Theater. They whirled up 42nd Street, but at 34th Street, Richard suddenly ordered the cabman to stop.
Stop! I've dropped my ring. It was my grandmother's. I know where it fell. It'll only take a minute.
Richard stepped out of the cab, found the ring, and was back inside in a minute. But during that minute, you won't believe what happened. A crosstown streetcar stopped directly in front of the cab. The cabmen tried to pass on the left, but a big express wagon cut them off. They tried to pass on the right, but had to back away from a furniture van. The cab was blockaded in a tangled mess of vehicles and horses, as is known from time to tie things up quite suddenly in the big city.
Richard, tell the cabman to drive on. We'll be late.
But the space where Broadway's 6th Avenue and 34th Street cross was filled as tight as a 26-inch maiden-filtered 22-inch girdle. All the traffic in Manhattan had seemed to have jammed itself around that cab. And still, from all the cross streets, they were hurrying and rattling towards the intersection at full speed, locking wheels and adding their drivers' curses to the clamor. The oldest New Yorker among the thousands of spectators that lined the sidewalks had not yet witnessed a street blockade of the proportions of this one.
I'm sorry, but it looks as if we're stuck. This jumble won't be loosened up for at least another hour. It's my fault. If I haven't dropped the ring.
Well, now that it can't be helped, I really don't care to go to the theater or not. May I see the ring?
It was my grandmother's. I've been told that it brings good luck and love.
It's beautiful, Richard.
Would you like to try it on?
Anthony, isn't it wonderful? Our dear Richard and Miss Landry are engaged. Don't ever boast of the power of money again. A little emblem of true love, our mother's dear little ring that symbolized an ending and a mercenary affection, was the cause of Richard finding his true happiness.
What's this about a ring?
Richard just told me all about it. On the way to the theater last night, Richard dropped the ring in the street, and when he stepped out of the cab to recover it, a blockade surrounded them, and it was 2 hours before Richard and Miss Landry could get out. 2 hours Richard spoke to Miss Landry of his love and won her heart forever.
Well, I'm glad Richard has a girl he wants. I told him I wouldn't spare any expense.
Oh, hush, Anthony. What good could your money have possibly have done? Money is dross compared with true love.
Miss Ellen's gone upstairs, sir, and here's my darling brother Tim.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Tim. Well, Rosie, it's time for me to settle up between you and Tim. Let's see, I gave you $5,000 in cash.
Yes, sir, and I passed it right along to Tim.
I paid out $300 more on my own. I had to go a little above the estimate. I got the express wagons and cabs, mostly for $5, but the trucks and the 2-horse teams mostly raised me to $10. Some of the motormen wanted $10, and some of the loaded teams $20. The cops struck me the hardest at $50. I paid $2 and the rest $20 and $25. But didn't it work beautiful, Mr. Rockwell?
Tim and I watched it all from a 6-story window. There was no time for rehearsal, but the drivers was all on time to the fraction of a second.
I never saw nothing like it before in my life, sir.
Well, here you are, $500 each plus the $300 you were out. Now, tell me, you two don't despise money, do you?
Oh, no, sir. Me and Tim can lick the man who invented poverty.
That we can, sir. Thank you, sir.
I wish I could have been there to see it. Now, tell me, you didn't happen to notice anywhere in the blockade a little chubby boy with no clothes on and wings shooting arrows with a bow, did you?
A little chubby boy flying about?
With no clothes on, shooting arrows? Gracious, maybe the cops pinched him.
I didn't think so. I had a feeling that little rascal wouldn't be on hand.
That one proves the Beatles wrong. Money really can buy love.
Yep, always makes you think twice. Have we lulled our friend to sleep yet?
Well, if he's asleep, you can read to me. I'm enjoying it.
Okay, let's see if you can guess which one this is. This one takes place in a little district west of Washington Square, a quaint old place called
Greenwich Village?
Bingo. So this is one of his more popular stories.
Oh, the one about the artist, the last leaf.
Yes, you get the prize.
Prize? Never said there'd be a prize.
Sure. The prize is I read you the story.
This is a good one. Not funny like the others, though.
Yeah, O. Henry had a more serious side also. So, to refresh your memory, 2 young artists, John G. and Sue, and an elderly artist, Mr. Berman, have their little studios in an old 3-story brick house. Today we might call them starving artists.
Your friend has one chance in 10 to survive. This pneumonia is not what you would call a chivalrical gentleman. Your friend has had her blood thinned by the California climate she comes from. And this New York pneumonia is a red-fisted, short-of-breath old duffer.
Poor Jonesy. Isn't there something we can do for her?
Her one chance is to want to live. She seems to made up her mind that she is not going to get well. I'll do all that science can accomplish through my efforts. If you can get her to think about the new winter styles or what she wants for supper, I'll promise a 1 in 5 chance for her instead of 1 in 10.
I'll do my best, Doctor. Thank you. Are you feeling a little bit better today, Jonesy dear?
12, 11, 10, 9.
What are you counting? I don't see anything but that old ivy vine, all gnarled and decayed on the brick wall across the yard.
8, 7, 6. They're falling faster now. 3 days ago, it was almost 100. It gave me a headache to count them, but now it's pretty easy. There goes another one. Just 5 left now.
5 what, dear?
Leaves on that old ivy vine. When the last leaf falls, I must go too. I have known that for 3 days now. Didn't the doctor tell you?
Why, I've never heard such nonsense. What have old ivy vines to do with your getting well or not? And you used to love that vine so, you naughty girl. Don't be a goosey. Why, the doctor told me this morning your chances of getting well real soon were... Let's see exactly what he said. He said the chances were 10 to 1. Why, that's almost as good as a chance as we have in New York when we ride the streetcars. Try to take some broth, and let me go back to my drawing so I can sell it to the editor man and buy you some port wine.
No, I need to get any more wine. There goes another one. No, I don't want any more broth. I want to see the last leaf fall before it gets dark, and then I'll go too.
Jonesy dear, I want you to promise me to keep your eyes closed and not to look out the window until I am done working. I must hand in those drawings tomorrow, and I need the light, otherwise I would pull down the shade.
All right, fine. But tell me when you're finished, because I want to see the last leaf fall. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of thinking. I just want to let loose on everything and go selling down, 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 like those poor old leaves.
Now stop that talk and try to sleep, dear. I must call Mr. Berman to come and be my model for the old man in my drawing. I'll only be a minute. Is there nothing on your canvas today, Mr. Berman? I was hoping...
Nothing. You see nothing. And you know why, my dear young lady? I am a failure in art. 40 years now I've been a failure. Always I'm about to paint my masterpiece, and always I fail to even begin. So why are you so surprised to see this blank canvas?
I believe in you, Mr. Berman. You will paint your masterpiece someday. I know it. But now I need you to come model for me and help me cheer up Jonesy. She's so very ill, you know.
Yes. I'm so sorry.
She's counting the leaves on that old ivy vine outside her window, and she says that when the last leaf falls, she will go too.
What is this you're telling me? Are there people so foolish as to die because leaves drop off a confounding vine? Why, I've never heard of such a thing. Why do you allow such silly business to dwell in her mind, poor little Jonesy?
She's very ill and weak, and the fever has left her mind full of strange fancies. I can do nothing to change her mind. Please, come post for me now.
Pose? I don't want to pose. This is terrible news you bring me.
Don't be a flibbergibbet. You know how Jonesy loves to see you, and I need you. You must come.
What is this you're calling me? An old flibbergibbet? Oh, go on, I'll come with you. There's not any place for one so good as Miss Jonesy to lie sick in. Someday I will paint my masterpiece, and we shall all go away from here.
Where would we go? To Naples, perhaps? It's warm and sunny there, and Jonesy has always told me that she wanted to paint the Bay of Naples someday.
Then she must definitely get well so we can do just that.
She's asleep. Come, look out the window. See the ivy vine on the wall over there?
It is raining. Such a cold rain, too. Mixed with a little snow, I think.
Oh, Mr. Berman, look! There is only one leaf on the vine.
You must not let her look out the window. We will pull the shade down and leave it down. Now, let me pose for you, only for a little while. Then, I must begin my masterpiece. Yes, my masterpiece, for Miss Jonesy.
Sue, isn't morning? It's so dark.
Yes, dear, it's morning. You slept most of the night. That's a good sign.
Pull up the shade. I want to see out the window.
It's only a cold, wet, windy day. Why not keep it shut out?
Pull up the shade. I want to see out.
Jonesy, dear.
Please. The last leaf is still there. I thought it would surely fall during the night. I heard the wind. Brave little leaf, clinging there so stubbornly.
As stubborn as you, Jonesy. You have always been stubborn.
Yes, I know, but something made that last leaf stay. And it showed me how wicked I've been. Isn't it a sin want to die? I'm feeling kind of hungry. Can I get some broth?
Of course, dear. I have some already heated.
Even chances today. You're out of danger, Miss Jonesy. With good nursing, you'll recover. Your neighbor, Mr. Berman, has come down with pneumonia, and the attack is acute. I'm afraid there is no hope for him. He goes to the hospital today to be made more comfortable.
I'm so sorry. He was such a good friend and protector, and he loved Jonesy so. Poor Mr. Berman.
Take good care of your friend. Tell her when she is stronger.
I will. Thank you, Doctor. Are you still looking out that window, Jonesy, dear?
Sue, it's a miracle. The last leaf is still there. It's been 2 days now. It's clinging to that old ivy vine, just as now it's clinging to life.
That leaf is precious to both of us, dear. Now, I have something to tell you. Our friend Mr. Berman died of pneumonia today in the hospital.
Oh no, poor old man, I'm so sorry.
The janitor found him lying on the floor and called for help. His shoes and clothing were wet through an icy cold. They couldn't imagine where he had been on such a dreadful night. And then they found a lantern still lighted and a ladder that had been dragged from its place, and some scattered brushes and a palette with green and yellow colors mixed on it. See, dear, that last ivy leaf on the wall? Didn't you wonder why it never fluttered or moved when the wind blew?
Well, yeah, but I thought...
It will always be there. It's Mr. Berman's masterpiece, Jonesy. He painted it the night the last leaf fell. He painted it for you.
You know, there is a nice sprinkling of sentimental stories in O. Henry's repertoire. Besides the more lighthearted ones, he more often just writes these pleasant stories with a nice little surprise at the end. But in all his stories, though, he creates these very believable characters, people you can really identify with.
Yeah, you feel like you know them. Like they could be your family or your friends or just some ordinary folks you know.
Right, or even yourself.
Absolutely. Hey, you might want to lighten things up after that one. Our friend here looks like he could use some cheering up.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, we'll read a happier one. One about getting away from all the cares in life. This one takes place in the dining room of a luxury hotel on Broadway named The Lotus. It's quiet and elegant, the perfect setting for two transients in Arcadia who discover...
Oh, don't ruin it!
Okay, let's just say they discover something totally unexpected.
This dear Hotel Lotus is an oasis in the July desert of Manhattan, Mr. Farrington. The temperature here is perpetually April, and the distant roar of Broadway is similar to a distant waterfall, pleasant and restful.
I quite agree, Miss Beaumont. And you are a guest that the Hotel Lotus adores. The bellboys fight for the honor of answering your ring. You possess the fine air of the elite, and your gown is exquisite.
You are too kind. I can only say in return that you have drifted into the exclusive and calm current of life here at the Lotus so silently that not a ripple has alarmed any of us. There is not the slightest doubt that you belong here.
I feel quite at home here.
One tires of the old resort. What is the use to fly to the mountains or to the seashore to escape noise or dust when the very people who make both follow us there?
Even on the ocean, the common folk are everywhere around you.
At least our secret has been safe, for the past week anyhow. I know but one other place so delightful and exclusive in the summer, and that is the castle of Count Polinsky in the Ural Mountains.
I hear that Baden-Baden and Cannes are almost deserted this season. Year by year, these old resorts fall into disrepute. Maybe many others, like ourselves, are seeking out the quiet nooks that are overlooked by the majority.
I promise myself just one more day of this delicious rest. Tomorrow, my ship sails.
I shall miss you. I, too, must leave tomorrow.
My chateau has been in preparations for longer than a month. Those house parties one must give, what a nuisance. But I shall never forget my week here and your excellent company, Mr. Farrington.
I've enjoyed my stay here, and you have made it amazing as well.
Mr. Farrington, I have something to tell you.
What is it?
I'll be leaving here before breakfast tomorrow because I have to go back to work.
Work?
Yeah, I'm up behind the hoistery counters at Casey's store. And my vacation's up at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. This dollar is the last I'll see till I draw my salary next Saturday. You've been a kind friend. I just wanted to tell you before I left.
Surely you jest.
No, I've been saving up for 1 year just for this. I want to spend 1 week like a lady. I want to ring bells and be waited on and sleeping late. And now I've done it. I've had the happiest time of my life. Tomorrow, I'll go back to work, satisfied for another year.
I don't know what to say.
Oh, and my name is Heloise Beaumont. It's Mammy Civitor. And this dress, it's the only one that's fit to wear. I got it at down in Levinsky's on the installment plan. This dollar will pay the installment due tomorrow.
You were very brave to tell me this. It's all right. I'll give you the receipt.
A receipt?
Yeah, I got to go back to work in the morning, too.
I don't understand.
I'm a bookkeeper at O'Dowd and Levinsky's. Funny, isn't it, that we both decided to spend our vacation here? I've always wanted to put up at a swell hotel, and I saved up out of my salary and did it. Say, why not go into Coney Island next Saturday afternoon? Maybe we could take in the sights, and maybe there's people with nothing to do.
You bet. The store closes at noon on Saturday, and I don't got any other plans. I guess Coney will be all right, even if we did spend a wonderful week here at the Lotus.
By the way, Mammy, my real name is James McManus.
It's nice to meet you, James. Here's to tomorrow and Coney Island.
To Coney Island.
Hey, I saw that situation in a movie recently.
Like I said, his themes have a universal appeal. Don't we all wish we could be someone else at one point or another in our lives?
Oh, Henry sure had a talent for getting inside people's heads and bringing their daydreams to life.
Well, this next story is very down to earth about how you can't always judge a book by its cover. And you can't always tell the way a character is to be the way you think he ought to be.
Yeah, like this guy. Thought O. Henry was just a candy bar. He's gotta be convinced he's sensational now. Am I right?
Yeah, sensational.
All
I have
right.
Goosebumps.
Be nice now. Listen to this. This next story features a gentleman and a burglar, and a couple of cases of rheumatism. It's called Makes the Whole World Kin. Picture a living room and listen to the voice of the storyteller.
I've come to the conclusion that there are 3 types of burglars. I've come to this conclusion because burglars have attempted to rob my uncle's house quite frequently. And when the police come and take them away, I take note of their appearance. Their classification is simple. The collar is the distinguishing mark. When a burglar is caught who does not wear a collar, he is described as the degenerate of the lowest type, vicious and depraved. The second type is the burglar who wears a collar. He is invariably a gentleman by day, while after dark he plies his nefarious occupation of burglary. The third type, the last one who entered my uncle's house, wore a green sweater, and the police would have been baffled had they attempted to classify him. The burglar got in by a window that had been carelessly left unlocked and began to prowl. As my uncle described it to me, this burglar wore no mask, carried no dark lantern. He only brought a pistol and thoughtfully chewed peppermint gum.
A hefty roll of bills, good enough. A watch, 3 poker chips, no. Keys, no. A pink silk hair bow, a fair enough touch, I'd say. Hold it. Sit still. Hold up both your hands. Up with the other one. You might have a gun somewhere about you. You might be amphibious or shoot with your left. You can count to 2, can't you? Hurry up.
I can't raise the other one.
Why not?
Rheumatism and a shoulder.
Rheumatism? Oh, inflammatory?
The inflammation has gone down now.
Oh, ah!
If you've come to burgle, why don't you get on with it? There's some stuff lying around the room.
It just socked me one good. You're lucky me and rheumatism happen to be old friends. Almost anybody but me would have popped you when you couldn't hoist that left claw of yours.
How long have you had it?
4 years, and that's not all. Once you've got it, it's the rheumatic life forever.
Ever try rattlesnake oil?
Gallons of it. If all the snakes of the oil I've used were stretched out, it would reach 8 times as far as Saturn. And the rattles could be heard in Valparaiso, Indiana, and back again.
What about Chisholm's pills?
Fudge, I took them for 5 months, and I had no luck. As some relief the year, I tried Finkelham's extract, balm of Gilead's poultices, and Potspan's pulverizers. But I think it was the lucky buckeye in my pocket that did the trick.
Is yours worse in the morning or at night?
Night, just when I'm busiest. Say, I guess you won't be of any trouble. Put down that hand of yours. You ever try Blickerstaff's blood builder?
No, I never did. Does yours come in paroxysms, or is it a steady pain?
It spikes, just when I ain't looking for it. I had to give up second story work because I would get stuck sometimes halfway up. Say, I don't think the bloomin' doctors know what they're talking about.
Same here. I've spent $1,000 without getting any relief. Yours swell any?
Mornings, and when it's gonna rain, great Christopher.
Me too. I can tell when the streak of humidity the size of a tablecloth starts from Florida on its way to New York. And if I pass a theater where there's a tear-jerker matinee going on, it starts my left arm jumping like a headache.
Say, you ever try Opal Doc?
Slop. Might as well rub on butter.
I tell you, the only thing that I find that eases her up is good old lest we forget castor oil. Say, get your clothes on. Let's go out for a drink. There she goes again.
For a week, I haven't been able to help myself dress.
Come on, I'll help you get into your clothes. Sorry. Come on, up you go. Oh, sorry. There you go.
Oh, man.
You ever try Opal Doc?
Berries didn't do me a lick of good. Oh, well, I forgot my money.
Never mind. I've got the price. Say, you ever try witch hazel and oil of wintergreen?
No, I haven't. Is it worth trying?
As I said before, the third type of burglar has not yet been recognized, or even in this case, understood. My uncle didn't call the police on this one, and he didn't even try to figure it all out. He just enjoyed the man's company and the chance to talk about their common affliction.
You never know how someone's gonna turn out, do you?
O. Henry teaches us a lot about passing judgment too quickly on people. One of O. Henry's favorite devices.
How about a charming romance to finish our little sampler? The Count and the Wedding Guest should be a good one.
You got it, my friend. Picture the front steps of a New York boarding house and a little park across the street, and the landlord, a Mr. Scott, sweeping the steps and looking for someone to talk to.
2 years ago, in my boarding house here, I introduced a new boarder, Miss Conway, to my longtime boarder, Mr. Donovan. At that time, Miss Conway wore a plain, stuffy brown dress and politely nodded at Mr. Donovan, who bowed and politely erased her from his consideration. Then one evening, what did I see? As Mr. Donovan was enjoying the evening air right here on the front steps, Miss Conway appeared, wearing a night black dress and a black hat and a black veil as filmy as a spider's web, not a spot of white or a speck of color anywhere about her, all in black and a faraway look in her eyes, as if her young life had been blighted forever. Mr. Donovan turned his head and had his head turned.
It's a fine, clear evening, Miss Conway. Won't you sit down?
No, thank you, Mr. Donovan. It is a fine, clear evening only to them that have the heart to enjoy it.
I'm so sorry. I hope you haven't sustained a loss.
Death has claimed another one. On who? Who? Oh, but I will not burden you with my troubles.
Burden? Why, Miss Conway, I'd be delighted. That is, I'd be sorry. I mean, I'm sure nobody could sympathize with you any truer than I could.
I have no friends or acquaintances in the city, but you have been kind to me. Still, I would not want to burden you with my troubles.
It's tough to live in this city by yourself. That's a cinch. But say, whenever this old town does lighten up and get friendly, it goes the limit. What about taking a little stroll with me in the park? Don't you think that might chase away some of your mullygrubs?
I'd be pleased to accept your escort. If you think one whose heart is filled with gloom could be anyways agreeable.
I'd be delighted, Miss Conway.
He was my fiancé. We were going to be married next spring. He was a real count and had a castle up in Italy. Count Fernando Manzini was his name, and I never saw the beat of him for elegance. Papa objected, of course. And once we tried to elope, but Papa overtook us and brought us back to Poughkeepsie. I thought sure Papa and Fernando would fight a duel, but finally Papa came round and said we might be married. Papa's very proud, and when Fernando wanted to give me several $1,000s for my trousseau, he called him down something awful. He wouldn't let me take a ring or any presents from him. And when Fernando sailed, I came here to the city and got a position as cashier in a candy store and got a room here in Mr. Scott's boarding house.
I'm sure glad you came to Mr. Scott's. It's a fine place to live, and I never would have met you if you hadn't.
3 days ago, I got a letter from Italy saying that Fernando had been killed in a gondola accident. That's why I'm mourning, Mr. Donovan. My heart will remain forever in his grave.
I'm awful sorry, Miss Conway. And don't say you have no friends in the city. I'm awful sorry, and I'd like you to believe that I'm your friend, and that I'm awful sorry.
I got this picture here in my locket. I've never showed it to anyone, but I'll show it to you because I believe you to be a true friend.
That's Count Fernando Manzini?
Yes, Count Fernando Manzini. That was.
Well, he appears to be a cheerful man who must have been the leader among his fellows.
He will always be in my heart, though.
A fine-looking man. Say, how would it suit you, Miss Conway, to give me the pleasure of your company to Coney Island next Sunday afternoon? It might be a nice diversion for you.
Well, yes, that sounds like a nice diversion to my liking.
Well, Miss Conway continued to wear black, but she began to keep company with Mr. Donovan, and 2 weeks later they announced their engagement. But a week after that, I noticed them on the same park bench across the street. Mr. Donovan had worn a gloomy look all day. I've never seen him so quiet. Something just wasn't right.
What's the matter, Andy? You're so solemn and gloomy tonight.
It's nothing, Maggie.
I know better. You've never acted this way before. What is it?
It's nothing much.
Well, I know what it is. I bet it's some other girl. Well, if that's the case, why don't you go be with her?
No, Maggie, it's not that. I promise.
Then what is it? Tell me.
Well, I guess I'll tell you, but I guess you won't understand. You've heard of Big Mike Sullivan, haven't you?
No, I haven't, and I don't want to if he makes you act this way. Who is he?
Why, he's the biggest man in New York. He's a mile high and as broad as the East River. He can do about anything he wants in the political line. You say anything against Big Mike and you'll have 1,000,000 men on your collarbone in about 2 seconds. Well, he's a friend of mine, and he's as good a friend to a rich man as he is to a poor one. I met him on the Bowery today, and what do you think he does? comes up and shakes hands with me. So I tell him I'm getting married in 2 weeks. Wow, Andy, he says, send me an invitation to your wedding, and I'll come. Oh, Maggie, it would be the proudest day of my life if Big Mike Sullivan came to our wedding. When he comes to a man's wedding, that man is made for life. That's why I'm looking sore tonight.
Well, what's there to be sore about? Why don't you invite him to our wedding?
There's a very good reason why I can't invite him to our wedding. And don't ask me what it is. I can't tell you.
Oh, it's something about politics, I suppose. But that's no reason why you can't smile at me.
Maggie, I have to ask you this. It's taking all my courage to do it, but do you think the same of me as you did your Count Fernando Manzini?
Oh, Andy.
There, Maggie. I'm sorry. I guess you still have feelings for him.
Oh, no, I lied to you. Oh, Andy, now you'll never marry me or love me anymore.
What?
You see, I made him up.
But why?
Well, I never had a beau in my life. All the other girls had, and they just talked about him. And well, it made me feel so sad and lonesome. I just had to do something. Well, I know I look swell in black. You know I do. So one day I went out to the photograph store and brought that little picture for my locket. It was such a handsome picture. And then I made up the story about the Count and about his being killed so I could look swell and wear black and find myself a man. Oh, no one can love a liar, and I'll die for shame. But there never was anyone I liked as much as you. Never anyone I come to love but you. Oh, Andy, can you ever forgive me?
Why, sure, Maggie, darling. It's all right. You straightened everything up for me just fine. I was sure hoping you would before the wedding day.
I'll be glad to meet him now, but Andy, are you sure you forgive me?
I'm sure. And now I'll invite Big Mike Sullivan to our wedding.
Andy, I have to ask you this. Did you ever really believe my story about the Count?
Well, no, not to any large extent. Because you see, that was Big Mike Sullivan's picture you had in your locket.
What a bizarre love triangle.
And there you have it, 9 sensational stories by O. Henry.
I just spent an entire day sandwiched between 2 O. Henry nuts.
An entire day? Yikes, you're right. It's late.
It's easy to lose track of time when you're wrapped up in a good read.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, we O. Henry nuts have to get going now, so we'll get out of your hair and let you get back to beauty sleep.
See you around.
Jookalorum. Jookalorum.
Excuse me, did you say something?
Jookalorum.
Huh?
An O. Henryism.
Oh, Henryism? What's that?
O. Henry used in one of his great stories. It means something special, something sensational.
Oh.
Like this book I'm reading.
There we go. Oh, now my mic is on. Hey, everybody, come back out, please. Come on out again, cast. Come on out. Give them another round of applause. Is everybody here? Oh, you're doing exactly what I told you to do to get changed. That's great. Miss Debbie, would you mind taking the music out for me? We didn't practice this part, so, you know, music. You could just do it right on the soundboard. Oh, whatever you want is fine, whatever you want. Well, I wanted to recognize a few people before I let you go. The first thing I want to do is, you know what? They're not all here anymore. Well, there were a few people who made their FBA debut. I wanted to recognize them, but they're gone, so we'll have to see them out in the hallway. I also want to recognize those who it is their last year. Christopher Tyndall, this is your senior year, correct? Joshua Locus, Noah Rose, and Luke Matthews, who is, again, doing exactly what I told him to do, to change his clothes. So thank you guys so much for your hard work. Seniors, we're definitely going to miss you. I also would like to thank Miss Rhonda Hillman for all of her hard work. She is a great support to me, and I could not have done this without her. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't even want to try. It takes so much effort to put these productions on. And what I love about Miss Rhonda is that she's always thinking of things when I don't. So thank you so much. And also, Christopher Tyndall's mother, Gilda Tyndall, she was an extreme help to me as well this year. She took on the role of assistant production manager and made it very much a success. Are you in the room? No? Oh, hello. No. Thank you so much for all of your help. So thank you all for coming again. I hope you have a wonderful night. No, I gotta go. This way. Walking. I'm gonna be tackled.
On behalf of the whole cast, we want to appreciate you, and we want to thank you. We want to thank you for putting up with us. We want to thank you for all your hard work, your creative mind, all the designing and everything, and want to honor you with this card.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Gonna miss you. Oh, thanks, guys. This is gonna go on. Oh my goodness! All right. Well, enjoy saying hi to the cast out in the foyer. They'll be there to meet you in just a few moments. And like I said before, if you have time to help us take it down, we would love your help. Have a good night.